Hello and welcome to another team news from Fantasy Football Scout. We are looking ahead to Gameweek 30. It's a normal game week, it's a single game week. As ever, I'm joined by Fantasy Football Scout editor and team news guru Neale. I know he hates being called a guru, but I'll do it anyway.
I really do.
Okay, just Neale then. I'm joined by Neale and we're going to chat about the press conferences that are taking place. And there's some big names that we're going to be looking out for. Erling Haaland in particular. Is he fit? Will he start? And also we've got other players like Luke Shaw. Will he be fit? And of course, we'll have the usual Nathan Ferguson news. I'm going to do a bit of a spoiler here. He's probably not ready because he hasn't been for about several years now. But you never know. Roy Hodgson signed him and he did play under Roy. So you never know. He could weave his elderly management magic on him. Neale, shall we get cracking? First fixture. It's the midday one on Saturday. Manchester United against Everton. Luke Shaw's the big news, isn't it? So, what's the latest from the home side? What's Ten Hag been saying?
Yeah, Luke Shaw's out on him. I think a lot of us, like myself, got him in for 29 and then looked at his fixtures beyond that as well because there's two decent ones coming up. But he's not going to make this one.
Oh, sorry,
midweek.
Your mic was just cutting out slightly there.
Oh, sorry, I'll repeat that again. Shaw's out.
Okay.
For this one, if you missed that.
Yeah.
They're not sure when he'll be back. They're going to see how it progresses in the coming week. That was Ten Hag's exact quote. So we'll see if there's an update ahead of. I think they're in Europa League action next week, aren't they? Against Sevilla. So we'll get a bonus press conference next week.
Okay.
As well. Hopefully update us then. But he's not going to make this one. Eriksen is back, however, which is good news for United and good news for Fernandes as well because we've seen him a little bit too deep of late for owners liking. So Eriksen's back. I suspect the start's probably not going to be in the offing here, but sooner rather than later he'll be back in our team. And this is the last game that Casemiro suspended as well. So hopefully, from about game week 31, we'll see Casemiro and Eriksen in the sort of double pivot engine room, and then Fernandes further forward. That's the idea anyway. But for this week, you might still be disconcertingly deep. Apart from those two, Heaton, Van der Beek, and Garnacho all still out. Okay,
and for Everton, I'm assuming Calvert-Lewin is going to be an issue again. Is he ready? Oh, your mic is cut out again for the Calvert-Lewin news.
Yeah, Dice said yesterday that he was still recovering.
Okay.
So but he has been seen on the grass today. We did see pictures of him in training today. But based on Dice's comments yesterday, doesn't seem too positive. And Townsend's still out. Vinagre's back in training after a minor Achilles problem. But apart from that, I think it's just Decoria who's suspended and everyone else is injury free. Okay, so before we move on to the 3:00 kickoffs, and we'll start with Villa against Forest, just want to welcome those that have joined us in the live chat on this Good Friday. Matt S, who says Happy Easter, Joe and Neale. So Happy Easter to you, Matt. Neale, Dennis, Meshash, you were in the last chat, and your name starts with LJU. BOMIR. So I'm going to say Legibomor again. So let's hope for the best there. But good to see you again, Daniel, Paolo, and many more. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's hope we bring you some good news for your players or your particular transfer plans. Let's move on to those Saturday 3:00 ones. We've got Villa against Nottingham Forest. Villa, obviously Ollie Watkins is the man in form and he should start. There's no fitness concerns there, but there are some fitness concerns with some more Villa players, aren't there? Oh, your mic is cut out again, Neale. Why does that keep happening? Is it the internet slow, or is it just the microphone just not?
No, everything seems fine. Everything seems fine.
I'm not muting anything. I'm not touching anything, so I don't know what the issue is.
It's almost as if your mic is punishing you for not speaking, and as soon as you don't speak it.
So, yes. Pash, Kamara, Coutinho, all still out. Well, they were all out of midweek anyway. We did get a bit of a time frame though today from Emery. He said that all three of them will be 10 days or 2 weeks from a return. So that's probably what game week 32 for that trio. But nothing fresh from Tuesday.
Okay. For Nottingham Forest as well. So Cooper, a man under pressure. What's happening now? I think Dennis to pick up a knock. Is he likely to be ready?
Yes, he did. Testing 1 2, by the way. Can you hear me
Yeah,
okay?
I can hear you now. Yeah, all
Good.
good.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening there. Forest, yes, yeah. Dennis is a doubt, or it might not be a doubt. It's Schrodinger's Forest team news because Cooper is reliably unreliable. I think is the phrase, because we don't know whether he's telling the truth
Yeah.
or not. But he's going to be assessed anyway after picking up a problem last weekend.
Okay.
Similar noises sounded on a few others. So Yates and Lingard, their day-to-day assessment on their respective problems. No fresh word on Aurier, who's been absent since the international break. McKenna's back in training. He's been out for 2 months-ish.
Yeah.
So the only ones who are definitely out are Wood, Bolly, Henderson, Dane Coney, and Richard. So that's 5 red flags. And beyond that, anyone's guess.
Rightio. Okay. Let's move on to Brentford versus Newcastle. So quite a bit of news from Newcastle. Let's start with Brentford first, then we'll come on to Newcastle, because I understand Hal's got quite a bit to say about Isak and Wilson, who Isak will be in a few teams sort of post double game week as well. So Wilson got the start last time out, but not sure about going forwards. But let's start with Brentford first. Well, I mean, what's the latest there before we move to Newcastle?
Pretty quiet, yeah. Thomas Frank was delivering his press comments yesterday. One of the 9 who did them on Thursday, probably to avoid getting out of Good Friday duties. So they're still pretty much as you were. Asia, Lewis Potter, and Onyeka are still out. There's one player who could be back, and that's Janild. He's been back in training after 3 weeks out. But given how delicately Thomas Frank tends to handle returning injuries, then he might be on the bench for this one. Okay. Apart from that, much the same.
Okay, so Newcastle, a couple of things there. So firstly, injuries, and then this Isak Wilson discussion that Hal was having. So yeah, who's out for this game?
Yeah, pretty quiet on the injury front. Kraft and Almiron are the only ones that are aware of. Now, word of warning here is that Eddie Howe did his press conference for this game straight off the back of the West Ham match. So that was on Wednesday night.
Okay.
They're staying down in London for the Brentford game. So he got his media duties out of the way in one fell swoop. So there could always be some fresh development in the intervening 2 days. That's the caveat.
Okay.
But yes, he was talked about Wilson and Isak. We saw Wilson get the nod on Wednesday. He scored twice. Isak coming on, of course, and he scored as well. He says it's a decision I'll leave for another day, and I'll try and make the right call for the next game. Now, my thinking here, being a Newcastle fan, is that Isak comes back in for this one.
Okay.
I think this will happen quite a bit because Newcastle's got 2 more 3-game weeks coming up between now and the end of the season, one of which is a double. So I think you'll see a bit of this. If you're an owner of Isak, you'll see him drop out in those 3 games. I still think he's nudging ahead of Wilson, I think, in terms of first choice, if there is such a thing. But there's going to be a heck of a lot of managed minutes. We saw it in that West Ham game where I think he went 3-1 up, and then he substituted every one of the front 3. So Wilson, Murphy, and St. Maximin all came off on the hour. And then on comes Isak, Willock, and Gordon. So you're going to see a bit of that going forward. The one area where he's not going to rotate, and he told us this himself in the press conference, is at the back. So he says, I'm a believer in a consistent back 4. It's an area of the team that I would not want to rotate much where possible. So if you've got Trippier, if you've got Botman, you're probably all right. But further forward, bit of a rotation risk.
Right, yeah. Okay, let's move on to Fulham, West Ham. So... yes, I just assumed half of them would be suspended, but we're starting to see some of the suspensions come back from Fulham after their 10 minutes of utter insanity in the FA Cup. Who's available for Fulham?
Yeah, they're finding new and exciting ways to get banned, because we had Palhinha banned for 2 games for yellow card accumulation. Then we had Willian out for handling the ball on the goal line. Now, of course, Mitrovic is out for shoving a referee, and that will give him it's an 8-match ban in total, one of which has already been served. So he'll be back, I think, Gameweek 36, I believe. So he'll be out for some time. He's the only one who's left suspended now. And Kazawa is the only player on the injury list. Cabano is back in training, but probably not match fit enough for this one. Otherwise, Marco Silva said there's nothing fresh from midweek. Right,
yeah. Okay, with West Ham, we don't know much about West Ham, do we? David Moyes is still there, incredibly, but yes. He hasn't been very illuminating about who might be fit.
No, he hasn't. And by all accounts, I think this may be his last chance at keeping his job. From what I read this morning, he said that yeah, because they were in action on that same night as Newcastle. They played, of course, at London Stadium. Yesterday was a recovery day, so with Moyes facing the media this morning, he hasn't had a chance to look at his players yet. Well, there wasn't anything obvious from that midweek game that we saw. The only player actually missing for that match was Scamager. He was definitely out still with a knee injury.
Okay, rightio. Not much there. Leicester, Bournemouth. Now, yeah, every time I see it's Adam Sadler, I do think it's Adam Sandler, and I think, well, that's a maverick interim management appointment for Netflix rom-com favorite Adam Sandler. But yeah, nevertheless, what has Adam Sandler been saying about Leicester's troops?
I think the same thing when I see Javi Garcia. I always think of Andy Garcia taking the Leeds press conference. Yes, there's nothing much new. I think Madison's all right by the sound of it. We did see him come off on, was it Tuesday night they were playing? He seemed to hobble off, but that was reported as cramp at the time, and that seems to be the case because Adam Sandler, facing the media yesterday, said that there was nothing new. Okay. So we think it's just Tielemans and Justin who are still out. Johnny Evans is back. He's in training, so he could be involved in the squad. The only fresh bit of team news is not injury related, it's suspension, and that's because Dewsbury Hall was sent off against Villa, and he's out for one game.
Okay, Bournemouth as well. So I mean they're straight off for double game week as well. So quite a lot of matches. So possibly some rotation there. Yeah, what shape are they in?
Pretty good fitness wise, yeah. I think Fredericks and Stanislas, who are barely featuring anyway, they're the only players absent from the last game week, which was a double, of course. The only addition to that is Marcos Senesi, who's a regular starter centre half. He's not even definitely out. He's just going to be assessed. Going to make a late call on him. But apart from that, I think it's as you were.
Righty. Oh, okay. Spurs against Brighton. It's a tough match for Spurs against mighty Brighton. Let's go with the home side first before we look at some of those potential injuries or fitness concerns at Brighton. But at Spurs, quite a few long-term absentees, aren't they? But I think Richarlison, I just see him in the crowd at the women's football game. Finalissimo, I think it's called, the England against Brazil, and he was cheering on Brazil there. So I can at least see him stand and cheer.
Yeah.
Do you think he might make a comeback?
It doesn't sound like there was a slight bit of confusion yesterday with Stellini's press conference because he's the nearest one to a return. They've got multiple players out.
Okay.
He said something like he's going to be for the next game he could be available, but it transpired that he was talking about the next game after this one,
I see. Right.
Which is Gameweek 31. So we still think he's short. He's been training, but only by himself on the pitch, so it sounds like he's a bit short. Following week he could be back. Still out are Ben Davies, Emerson Royale, Ryan Sessegnon, Bentancur, Basuma, and Lucas Moura is now banned as well for 3 matches because of a serious foul play.
Okay, right. Yeah, Wolves against Chelsea. So Chelsea got new old manager back. Let's start with Wolves first. Hoang could be.
Should we?
Oh, sorry.
We didn't cover Brighton there, Joe. Could we just go back and do
what? This is. Thanks so much for that, and they're my team as well. And there is concerns over McAllister. Well, there was rather. We weren't sure. He came off, and we weren't sure whether he was going to be fit against. But what has De Zerbi been saying? Thanks for reminding me.
That's all right. No, it's they're talk of the town at the moment, aren't they? Brighton. Everyone owns at least 2, I think. It's good news. So McAllister's fine. Him and Caicedo, which is a double good news because if Caicedo was out, then you could see McAllister potentially moving back a bit. But both being past fit. They can play tomorrow without any problems. They're going to De Zerbi, so they're all right. Still out, Sarmiento, Lallana, and Moda. They're sort of going to be cutting it fine for Gameweek 38. Lamptey's still not recovered either.
Okay.
With a knee problem, but apart from that, I think it's as you were.
Yeah. Well, I think I might actually be benching McAllister, but
I'm benching one of mine. I think. Yeah.
I don't feel good about it. But
no.
Nevertheless, I think a lot of people have been faced with that with 2 Brighton midfielders.
Yeah.
Back to Wolves and Chelsea. Obviously, Chelsea new manager Frank Lampard, old manager. But Wolves. Let's go for Wolves first. Hwang, is he available for this one? Because I know he's been absent for a while.
He is, yeah, he's fit and available. So that's just, I think, the long-term ones on the injury list, Chiquinho and Kalajic as well. two suspended. One of them is a new one, and that's Ruben Neves. That's quite a big blow for Wolves. He's got a 2-match ban. He's the third player this season to reach 10 yellow cards, so he's out for the next 2 game weeks. Johnny's still suspended as well. I think he's got another 2 games to go on his red card. Podence, he's been charged for spitting at Brendan Johnson, but I don't think it'll be settled anytime soon. So I think it's a 6-match ban. I think if it's found guilty.
Yeah.
But the Wolves are contesting it, so I'm assuming he's fine to play this weekend.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they can test it, but unless he was pretending to spit, and he was doing a sort of "I'm blowing a birthday cake out" face, which looked like a spit.
Yeah, I think they're relying on the absence of any kind of bodily fluids being heading towards Johnson. But yeah, I think it doesn't sound good for him.
Right, yeah, good old FA. Chelsea, what I mean, I've got Kepa in my side. Everyone's saying that he's going to get binned now that Frank Lampard's back. But what changes are likely with Frank?
Well, you can expect more of Mason Mount. I think we know that much, don't we? Because he was very much teacher's pet at Derby and Chelsea. Lampard was previously. Team news he didn't give much of, unsurprisingly, because it was just. It was all about his appointment. So the last we heard, the only players that are out were Broja, Thiago Silva, and Azpilicueta, because Sterling and Fofana came back in midweek. So they're almost got a clean bill of health. Yeah, there was quite a lot of quotes on Mason Mount, funnily enough, from Lampard. He did say that he acknowledged that there has been a few slight injury problems with him, and he only just returned in Gameweek 29, did Mount. But he says, I know what I'll get from him. I've got a good relationship. He's a huge player for Chelsea. He's a fantastic player for me, so we're going to see more of Mount.
He's in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but on Kepa, so he was, I think, demoted last time Lampard was in charge with Mendy coming back in. I think Mendy was Lampard the one who brought Mendy in. I think it was under his stewardship. Yeah. And since he exited, I think Kepa's had some choice words to say about Lampard's management, and he probably never thought he'd be playing under him ever again. Quite reasonably. And here we are. So Mendy
is fit.
Mendy is fit. He was back on the bench on Tuesday, I think, for the first time. He had, I think, he had finger surgery or something, so he's available now. Okay. So there is a slight concern about that.
Yeah.
Whether they can kiss and make up as Fraser and Howe did at Newcastle for a little while.
Yeah.
That didn't last. Remains to be seen. But yeah, a legitimate concern, I think, if you're a Kepa owner.
Okay. Luckily, I'm also a Steel owner as well, so
yeah,
it looks like I might be fielding him a few times coming up. Let's move on to Southampton, Manchester City. This is the big news. Everyone's been, is Livramento going to be fit? That's what people. No, sorry, it's the visitors, Man City. It's Haaland, isn't he? We've seen him in training. We've seen the pictures in training. He's been leaping in the air, getting in goals in training. But will he play this match?
He's going to play. I think there's it seems likely. He's been past fit here, so the flags come off him in FPL.
Right.
And Pep actually gave us more than what we thought. I think we expected him to say he's trained. We will see. We're not sure, but he did say
maybe he'll play.
Yeah. Twiddling his mustache. He said he's ready. So he's trained the last 2 days really good. So that would have been Wednesday, Thursday, and he'll have another session after the press conference. So 3 days of training. Not ideal. I think you'd ideally want him to train for longer, I think, if you're an owner, certainly a captainer. So we'll see him in the squad, I think. Asked if, this was another report asking him later in the presser, if minutes before the Bayern Munich game was of paramount importance. Pep sort of played that one back with a straight bat. He said it's the last thought of the Bayern game. It's Southampton, the Premier League is every week. It does not depend on that. So whether you choose to believe him or not. I don't for one second believe that Pep lives in a vacuum where he's not thinking about the Champions League coming up. I'm sure he does a bit.
But I mean, they are a bit of a bogey side for Manchester City, aren't
they? Are
weirdly.
They very much are. Yeah. They've either defeated them or ran them close quite a few times. I think even after that 9-0 against Leicester, they went to City the following week and ran them very close. Yeah. And they've beaten them, as you say, over the years. So I don't think we're going to see him play 90 minutes. I think that's a fair assumption.
I'm just going to say, because I'm going to get him in and captain him. Are you?
I'll be getting him in. Yeah, I'm not sure about the captain yet, because I think the alternatives. I mean, you could say the same about Rashford. Is he going to last 90 minutes with Sevilla coming up? And this is the third game in a week with United, and they've just played, I think, was it Wednesday night? It's a lunchtime kickoff, so he's got possible game time concerns about him as well. So it could be Ollie Watkins is a legitimate third choice, I think.
Definitely.
So I'm not sure about the captain yet, but I will be getting him in. I think there's I've got the money. I've got Ivan Toney there waiting to be shipped out, and he's coming in.
Okay, before we move on to Leeds and Palace, we've got Southampton to mention. They've
yes.
So I did mention Livramento. He's back in training.
You did.
I understand.
He is. Yeah, he's been out, I think, for almost like a full year now. He's not ready to feature just yet, but he's nearing a return. He'll be probably getting game time with the under-23 soon, I would imagine. So he is still out. Larios is out for the season with a definite injury. With Livramento, it's just match fitness now. Salisu and Adams still out as well, so they haven't recovered, so they're definitely sidelined. Bella Kotchap was described as a question mark by Ruben Sellers yesterday. So 4 definite red flags, 1 50% flag, and I think everyone else is fine.
Okay, Leeds Crystal Palace. Before we come to that all-important Nathan Ferguson news, Leeds, what has Javi Gracia been saying?
Yeah, just quickly about the Man City. Actually, I didn't elaborate on anything beyond Haaland. There wasn't anything reported.
Okay.
So all that we think is absent is Phil Foden still with that appendicitis. Right. Yeah, back to Leeds. Adams, Forshaw, Dallas unavailable still, like their medium term. And then Gracia said we're going to have the same players I had for the last game, which makes me think that Wober's not going to recover. Willie Nonto was on the bench in midweek, unused substitute, but he's now fit again.
Oh, okay. So, I've made a slight blunder then in the team news roundup, but I will address that. If you see him in the out column, then just ignore that. Crystal Palace, Nathan Ferguson. Will I reach my guitar and do a Nathan Ferguson chord yet in celebration?
Yeah, unfortunately, so you're going to have to leave it up there and ditch your plectrum for one more week at least, Joe. I think it's he's not going to be fit for this one. He should be back in training next week, although, of course, training and being match fit is different things altogether. Bigger news from Palace, though, even bigger than Ferguson, if you can imagine such a thing, is that Zaha and Guaita are both out of this one. We knew about Zaha. We thought that was going to be likely, but Guaita, who had been injured and then came back last week, has obviously aggravated something. It's his calf.
Okay.
Managed to see through the Gameweek 29 win, but then is now out.
Right.
So it looks like Sam Johnson coming between the posts for Palace. No timeline officially from Palace on Zaha and Guaita, but I think Hodgson said today that he was hoping them to be back by the end of the month. So that's another 4 or 5 game weeks possibly. And Richards and Ferguson, they should be back in training next week. I think Richards is already in training, but neither of those fit this weekend.
Okay, and finally we got it's a big one. It's a big finally. It's Liverpool against Arsenal. Let's go for Liverpool first. I know there was some vague speculation because Salah hadn't been seen in training, but I understand it was a designated rest day for him, so he should be fine.
Yeah, we think that's the case. This was Spy on Cop reported this one. And they're usually reliable. Copy HQ, you might see them on Twitter as their handle. Was it Jota and Gomez? I think they were the 3 not seen in training, but nothing reported today by Klopp. And this is a regular thing where players have extra recovery days. For Liverpool, injury news and illness news. Van Dijk's fine. He missed out because of sickness against Chelsea, but he's back for this one. Thiago could be back as well. He's been out for a while. He's been in training this week. He's going to be assessed. Diaz has also been in training, but he's probably not going to be involved in this one. Gameweek 31 against Leeds is his target. So then at that point, Klopp's got all 6 of his attackers fit and available for the first time, I think, this season.
Okay.
And longer term, just Ramsey, Bajcetic and Keita who are out.
And I understand it at Arsenal with the press conference, it's a case of who is that mystery man? What has Arteta been saying?
Yeah, he's up to his old tricks again. We know that this is by process of elimination. We know that El Neni and Tomiyasu are out. This is what Arteta said. He says nothing much change on the injury front. We hope with one of them tomorrow you'll be able to train, but we'll have to see. I'm not going to tell you who. So we know that El Neni and Tomiyasu are long term, which just leaves Nketiah and Saliba. So it's one of those 2. He's not going to tell us who it is. We'll keep our eyes peeled on training ground images and any Arsenal reporters. Saka's fine though. That's one bit of good news. He was on the bench last weekend, of course, against Leeds.
because of illness that affected him prior to the game. But he's fine. He obviously came on as a substitute last weekend, and a reporter asked Arteta today if he was fully recovered, and he said he has. So of the front three, he's the one you think he's definitely going to start. There's question marks over the two others.
Okay.
It's 2 from 3 of Jesus, Martinelli, and Trossard. Yeah. And Arteta was asking about it today. He says it depends on the moment, what we want to do, the quality we are seeking, and obviously you can make 5 changes. So I think between those 3 players, that's where the risk is. Saka, obviously, people who kept him last weekend were punished by the 1 point there, but longer term, you've got the secure starter, I think.
Yeah, he should be there. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the same as with Trossard, Jesus. I mean, it could be Nketiah comes back even for a cameo towards the end. Saliba news is going to be really interesting for Sky managers who he might still be in the team. He's a bit of a favourite in Sky because he's really cheap and good. But anyone who's still got him in their side might want to keep him. Let's move on to the roundup here. So as I said, ignore the Nonto out bit. He shouldn't be there. Fit to play, Johnny Evans, Hwang, Haaland. I put exclamation mark there because it's quite exciting. Van Dijk is fit. Eriksen can get minutes. McAllister is definitely fit. Questionable Dennis, Yates, Richarlison. I put Nketiah and Saliba there. I don't know. One of them's questionable. One of them isn't. Major doubt. Scamacca, Diaz is very, very unlikely to start. So he should really be in the out column. But a major doubt. Ignore Nonto. He shouldn't be there. Tielemans. Che Adams, Decore is suspended. Zaha's got his groin issues. Guita's got his calf issues. Shaw is just injured, but we don't know. We don't know when he'll be back. It didn't. There was no indication of it being sort of long term, short term. There was just no sort of. We just don't know at this stage.
Not from official channels, no. I did see someone at United account, I don't know how reliable it was, saying it was more precautionary in nature.
Okay.
And the fact that Ten Hag did say they're going to see how it progresses next week, that makes me think it's not a long-term thing.
Okay. And we have loads more suspended. Neves, Mora, Mitrovic, of course, Williams back now. Almiron's injured. Cash is injured. Coutinho's injured. It's a big out column there. But they're mainly suspended, but we're getting to that stage there. Neale, thanks so much for joining me. I think we've got some good news there. I'm off to get Haaland in and bung the captaincy on him. You're in to get him in and maybe put the captaincy on him, maybe not. Yeah. I hope you have a good rest of Good Friday and the Easter weekend. Thanks everyone for joining us in the live chat, and good luck with the game week. See you soon.
Toodaloo.